There was another thing that happened today, and I think it's very important to note that the US Trans Survey just released the civic engagement report data from Advocates for Trans Equality. And in fact, there's an important point to note. The fact is that are trans people are an incredibly powerful voting bloc. And what that is think about this. This data is fresh, hot off the presses. Three quarters, 75% of voting eligibility respondents reported that they voted in the 2020 presidential election, compared to 67% in the US general population. And 82% of the voting eligible respondents reported that they were registered to vote in the 2020 presidential election, compared to 73% of the US general population. And the 2022 US Trans Survey had over 92,000 respondents of binary and non binary trans people across the entirety of the United States. So this is historic. Trans people vote. Trans people are a voting bloc and are more likely to vote than the general population in the United States, despite the barriers that try to stop us to vote. And that is why this call is so incredibly important. So without further ado, let's kick this off. Let's get going. So I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Sebastian Smith, the Director of Organizing for the Advocates for Trans Equality.
Hold on, can y'all hear me? Can anybody hear me? Can y'all hear me? Can y'all
I
see
can
me?
hear you.
Can y'all
I
see
cannot
me?
see you.
Okay, we're gonna fix that. We're gonna fix that. All right. And let's make sure our interpreter is still up here with me. Here we go. Y'all know how this go. You can expect tech issues to come up, but we are here together, and I am so glad to be here with you all this evening. So I am going to continue to welcome us and ground us in this moment, and I would love to give a land acknowledgement. As we gather in this virtual space, we must acknowledge that the ground beneath our feet is historically the home of Indigenous people, many of whom have been forced to leave for other lands, and this acknowledgement recognizes the first caretakers of this land, the suffering they endured, and the sacrifice made by Native people. I am currently an uninvited guest on the land of the Muskogee Creek people, which is known as Atlanta, Georgia, for those who do not know. But may we remember that the indigenous people are not a people of the past, but they are here with us now, continuing to demonstrate their talents and gifts amidst a backdrop of ongoing colonialism and oppression. And this land acknowledgement, I hope, will inspire others to stand in solidarity with Native nations. Thank you all so much again for being here in this moment with us and sharing all of the excitement for the Harris campaign and talking about the things that are most impactful to TGNCI communities as well. So I am going to pass the mic over back to Josie, and we're going to start with some of our speakers. And we have one exciting speaker coming right up for you all. So I'm going to pass the mic back to my colleague Josie to introduce our first speaker. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. And I know we had a little bit of a technical difficulty there at the very beginning, but I do want to say hello, everybody. I'm Josie Gaviero. I'm the Director of Voting and Elections for the Advocates for Trans Equality. I'm going to be your host today, and I am so excited to be able to host this incredibly historic event. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to the Executive Director of the Advocates for Trans Equality, Rodrigo Leg Haitman.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this historic occasion. This is so exciting. As Josie said, my name is Rodrigo Hang-Leitonen. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the executive director here at Advocates for Trans Equality. And I am so excited that we are here tonight to elect Kamala Harris as president of the United States. And also piggybacking on this, that we released these findings from the US Transgender Survey on voting. Josie already mentioned this a little tonight, but I know when it's a lot of numbers, it's easy to get lost in all of that. So I wanted to put it in context a little more. The USTS, what's the USTS? It's the United States Transgender Survey. We run it here out of Advocates for Trans Equality, and it is the largest study by trans people of trans people. It is really the gold mine of data where we get to prove the issues and challenges that we really face as a community. And today we released our findings about trans people and voting and civic participation. And we really found that trans people are a powerful part of the electorate. A lot of times, elected officials have not really taken our issues seriously, in part because they think that we're too small of a community to matter. And now we've been able to prove that that is not true at all. We found that three quarters, 75% of people who took the survey who were eligible to vote did vote in the last presidential election. 75% voted in the 2020 election. And that's compared to only 67% of the general population. So that means we found that trans people in our survey voted more than the average person, voted 8% higher. And that is huge, especially when you think of how narrowly elections like this are actually determined. We also found that 82% of people who were eligible to vote registered to do so in our survey in the last presidential election. Now, how many people did that in the general population? 73. So again, trans people did it more. Trans people registered to vote at a rate almost 10% higher in our survey than the general population. All this together, it means that trans people are a voting bloc. High voting rates is a trend, and it means that we as a community, trans people and our allies, are committed to making sure that our voices are heard. Another thing that was so incredible was we found that more than three-quarters of the USTS respondents did some kind of activism. So not just voting, but doing things that are really time intensive, like writing to their elected officials, going to a protest or a rally, serving on a board, or getting involved in a nonprofit and community organization in their home. This is really demonstrating that trans people are part of the fabric of society. From volunteering to donating to campaigns or causes, USTS respondents showed up for the 2020 election. And we know that all of us together are going to show up for this next election now in 2024 too. So all this together really proves that trans people, we are a force to be reckoned with. We have the power to make change. We don't have to wait by the sidelines and just worry about what's going to happen. We can take charge. We can take matters into our own hands. And you all are taking the first step in taking charge of the community by coming here tonight. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you for being part of this historic event. And I look forward to keeping in touch with each and every one of you. And I'll send it back to my colleague, Sebastian.
Hi, everybody. I'm not Sebastian, but I am Josie, which is fine. Um, so it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce our next guest. Um, I have a little bit of personal love for our next guest because I remember seeing her when I was at a DNC convention in 2016 before I came out as a trans woman myself. She inspired me to see that it is possible to be a trans woman in politics. So I am honored to introduce our next speaker and our next first Congresswoman, in the United States of America, Senator Sarah McBride from Delaware.
Well, thank you so much, Josie, for that incredible introduction. Thank you so much for those kind words. I am so excited to be on with you, Josie, and with hundreds of trans people and those who love us in support of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in November. This is truly a historic gathering. I remember back when I first came out in 2011, 2012, the small but mighty group of trans folks that were organizing for Barack Obama's reelection, to see the growth of our community's voice in our politics over the last 10 years has been nothing short of inspiring. And tonight is one more big step in our community leveraging our power, our voices, and our votes to bring about the change that we still so desperately need. As Josie mentioned, my name is Sarah McBride. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am the state senator representing the 1st State Senate District in the greatest state in the Union, Delaware. And I'm the Democratic Party's endorsed candidate for Delaware's open congressional seat. And after November, I hope to join you not only as Delaware's next member of Congress, but as our nation's first out trans member of Congress. A first, but certainly not a last. I want to say that I am so fired up to be here. I am here, like all of you, for one simple reason, because we have to win in November. We know as a community that our rights, our dignity, and our lives are on the line. And this is a critical moment for trans people in our country, because over the last few years, we've seen a cruel and concerted effort to roll back the clock on our progress and to target our community for discrimination. And in particular, to target some of the most badass members of our community for discrimination, trans young people. We have seen that cruel and concerted effort seek to strip away parents and providers, coaches and classmates, teammates and teachers, leaving trans young people isolated, telling them in so many instances and in so many ways that they don't belong. And we know in this election that our rights are at risk. We know what Donald Trump and JD Vance and their Project 2025 agenda, what they will do to us. They will seek to implement the Texas and Florida and Alabama agenda at the federal level. We know that because we know who Donald Trump is. He's the same self-serving, insecure trust fund baby that he has always been. He's the man who governed based on pettiness and grievance for 4 long years, who incited an insurrection and mocked victims of political violence, who attacked abortion rights, LGBTQ rights, voting rights, and workers' rights every step of the way. We know what 4 more years of Donald Trump would mean for us and for our country. And that is the question in the election before us. Do we go backwards or do we move forward? Do we choose freedom over fear, hope over hatred? Do we return to the policies of the 1950s or hell, even the 1890s? Or do we build on the progress of the Biden-Harris administration? Do we continue to move this country forward? Because while we understand what is at risk, we understand what is at stake, what also brings us to this Zoom, what brings us to this cause, is what we know is possible. It's the possibility of electing Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to the White House, the possibility of keeping the Senate, and the possibility of flipping the House of Representatives so that we can finally pass the Equality Act and guarantee full non-discrimination protections for LGBTQ people in every corner of this country and every part of our daily lives. It's so we can elect an administration that has our backs and challenges the anti-trans laws that we are seeing proliferate around this country. And it's so we can continue to build on the progress that our community still so desperately needs in every aspect of our lives. Because we know, as Audre Lorde said, there's no such thing as a single issue cause because no one lives single issue lives. It's why trans people, yes, we need the Equality Act. Yes, we need an administration that is taking Texas to court. But we also need an administration that is fighting for universal health care, affordable child care and housing, voting rights and reproductive freedom, climate action, all of the policies that we need as human beings in this country and in this world to live and to thrive. That's what's possible in this election. We know what is at risk. We know what is at stake. We know what is possible. We know our rights and our progress are on the line. But so is our very sense of belonging. And that's why we're here united to do all we can to win in November, because we have the opportunity, but more importantly, the responsibility in this election to show a trans young person who fears that the heart of this country is not big enough to love them too, that no matter what extremists say or do, that our next president and vice president continue to have their backs, that they are respected and protected, that here in America, they belong. We belong. That's Kamala Harris's America. That's Tim Walz's America. And that's the America we can build if we continue to summon our faith and our fight to win this election. Thank you all. I'm looking forward to this evening. Let's go win this thing.
Thank you so much, Senator McBride. If that didn't get you amped up and ready, I don't know, is the blood pumping through you? Like, shit, that did that not get you amped up and ready? Thank you so much, Senator McBride. We appreciate you being here with us tonight. And we're going to keep moving and keep going with that inspiration and that motivation that you just gave us. So give us 1 second, folks, and I am going to introduce our next speaker for this evening. All right, y'all. So what I wanted to do is roll us back just a little bit. I am Sebastian Smith, pronouns are he and him, and I am the Director of Organizing at Advocacy for Trans Equality. I have the amazing opportunity to have a real deep foot into community organizing as well. So when community calls out and community needs something, it is us, national orgs, us that have the resources and the tools who must take that call and run with it. I want to give credit this evening to a group of BIPOC trans leaders and our allies for initiating some of this effort. A4TE absolutely showed up and met the moment and provided the tools and the resource to make tonight's call happen. But this was birthed in a community conversation. And that speaks to why we're here, y'all. We have to do it together in combination with our national organizations, our state and local organizations that are advocating in the highest levels of government for us, combined with our community members who are experiencing all of the things that we're talking about today. So I have to give credit and lots of shots out to those groups of folks, that group of BIPOC trans leaders and allies who initiated this effort, and A4 answered the call. So I'll get off of my soapbox and move us on to our next speaker, who was actually a part of that amazing group. We have Zahara Bassett coming up next to address you all. Zahara, welcome.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you all for being here tonight. It is an honor to sit before you as we gather for a cause that is so close to my heart and vital to the future of our community. Tonight, we've come together not to just celebrate the incredible resilience and strength of the trans community, but to take action, real meaningful action. We are here because we believe in the future where every trans person and non-binary person should be empowered, supported, and given the opportunity to thrive. We are here because of the fight for equity, justice, and safety for all of us is far from over. Tonight's fundraiser is more than just an event. It's a commitment to our people, our community, and our future. We are raising funds to assure that trans voices are heard at the highest level of power. But there's no better ally to help us in this fight than Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz. Their unwavering support for our community has been a beacon of hope. And together we can push for the policies and changes that we need to make a lasting impression. But First, to get through this fight, we need resources. And that's why we're calling on each and every one of you tonight to stand with us. By every dollar that's raised tonight is a step forward to ensure that trans people, especially Black and brown trans women, have the representation and the resources they need to live with dignity and pride. So let's come together tonight. Let's raise our voices. Let's raise the funds we need to make sure that our future is one of equity, justice, and liberation for us all. Thank you so much, Sebastian, and thank you, A4TE.
Thank you so much, Zahar, and just thank you for all you do and all the ways that you show up for your community and continue to show up. Thank you so much. And we're going to keep moving with our speakers. The next speaker I have coming up is Lee Blinder. Let's get Lee up. Welcome, Lee. You ready to address the audience?
Thank you so much, Sebastian. My name is Lee Blinder. I use they, them pronouns, and I live in Maryland, where as a non-binary transgender leader in the state, I run the statewide trans rights organization. As part of that work, I educate community members in both the public and the private sector on supporting trans employees, community members, students, elders, voters, patients, and clients, and where we're working every day to ensure that trans people are protected and empowered. In my state, we've gained a lot of ground in recent years, but the truth is, the people in my community, the people that I work with every day in Baltimore, Annapolis, and Cumberland, even the people in my home, we've been nervous. We've seen the language that Donald Trump and his followers are using when they mention transgender Americans. We've seen them tell us in their Project 2025, where they lay out their plans to strip back our rights. We've seen how they plan to weaken protections in haven states like ours and embolden anti-trans policies in states like Florida that are creating trans refugees in our own country. But there's good news. We've also seen the concrete actions of Vice President Harris and Governor Walz. We've seen the vision of freedom that they have outlined for trans Americans. And we've seen the way that they have empowered advocates in California, in Minnesota, and across the nation to fight and to win. The contrast here is really clear, and it makes the path forward really obvious. If we are to protect transgender Americans, we must do everything that we can every day from now until November to elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States. There is no time like today to get involved with the Harris campaign so that we can secure protections for trans people of all ages, our families, and our providers and allies. As trans people, we are facing this tangible threat to our ability to thrive. And we have the agency, the initiative, and the connections to ensure that we win. Voting for Kamala will guarantee that we have the best conditions under which we can continue to organize and further protections in states like Maryland, and to roll back some of the ground that we've lost in states where trans existence is under direct threat. I grew up as an openly queer teenager, believing that the issues that I cared about most were not politically viable. I'm here before you today to say that that is exactly what our opposition wants, for us to feel disempowered, to feel that we can't win. Each person on this call and in this audience has a powerful story, and each one of us have the agency to alter the course of history. Our trans ancestors fought hard to get us here, and we can do this. Let's ensure Kamala Harris is the 47th president of the United States. Thank you so much. It's really great to be here tonight.
Thank you so much, Lee, for your kind remarks and wonderful experience. Like, we are jazzed up. Come on, we are going. It is happening, and I appreciate you, Lee, as I've known you and the great work you do in Maryland as well. So thank you so much. So with that, I will go ahead and introduce our next amazing speaker, Danielle Bonanno. Bonanno. There we go. Sorry, I tried to be too pronouncing on that, but thank you.
Thank you. Hey, y'all. My name's Danielle Bonanno. I use she, they pronouns, and I am a nonprofit executive director and community organizer in Georgia. And I'm so excited to be sharing space with all of y'all. We have a lot of people on this call, and I'm just really excited to be here. We've come together tonight because we know what's at stake: our lives, our rights, and our future. This election isn't just about politics. It's literally about our survival and the survival of everything we've fought for. Right now, we're facing a real and present danger with Project 2025. It's not just another political agenda. It's a direct attack on our community and our identities. They want to strip away our rights, deny us healthcare, and undo the progress we've made. And as a trans person, that absolutely terrifies me. And as someone in long-term recovery from substance use, I've seen how the very systems meant to support us can be turned into tools of oppression. For years, I've worked to bridge the gap between the queer and recovery communities, advocating for trauma-informed, culturally affirming care. But recently here in Georgia, I've watched in horror as legislation designed to support recovery and harm reduction has been twisted to push anti-LGBTQ agendas. This isn't just an attack on our community, it's a betrayal of the principles of compassion and care that should guide our government. And we can't allow our need for help to be used as a weapon against us any longer. That's why I'm here today, and that's why I'm supporting Kamala Harris. Throughout her career, Kamala has stood with us, fighting for our rights and for the dignity of every person. She understands that our community isn't just a talking point, that we're real people with real lives that deserve respect and protection. We're not just here to talk, we're here to act. We need to make sure our voices are heard, to stand up against the hate, and to vote for a future where we can live authentically and safely. We've come too far to let them drag us backwards. But we can't do it alone. We need resources to keep this momentum going. So if you're able, please consider making a donation or signing up to volunteer through the links in the chat. Every dollar in volunteer helps us reach more people, drive more votes, and ultimately protect our rights. So let's do this together, y'all. Let's drive the vote for Kamala Harris, and let's ensure that love, equality, and justice win. Thank y'all.
Thank you. That was great. It's incredible. And thank you for reminding us about those wonderful links about why we're here today, to really get those donations and those volunteer signups. And also, don't forget to check your voter registration on transformthevote.org. Follow the links. We're doing this for a cause because like Danielle said, this isn't all about talking. This is about action. So let's get out there and do some action. I am really excited about the next guest, my friend, Charlotte Clymer.
Josie, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so good to see you. It's so
You too.
exciting.
You look fantastic.
So do you.
As always.
Always do. No, as you look great as always.
Oh,
But
well,
go
yeah.
on. Tell
I
us
try
why
my
we
best.
should vote for
I'm wearing
him.
my Dolly Parton shirt tonight, so I'm
Ooh.
feeling pretty confident. I
Good
want to
choice.
thank you and Sebastian and Rodrigo and just everyone who put this together tonight. I am just so excited to see all these people I admire on this speaker list tonight. It's insane. Like, there are so many great folks. Folks, my name is Charlotte Clymer. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a writer and a communication strategist, but tonight I am here because I am a fan. I am a fan of Vice President Harris. I am a fan of Governor Walz. But most importantly, I'm a fan of trans people being in elected office. I am a fan of voting for trans elected officials and seeing them make change across the country. I don't know how many of y'all knew this, but the day before President Biden stepped aside as the party's nominee through his letter that he released, the day before that, Sarah McBride, who is going to be the first openly trans member of Congress, was a fundraiser with Vice President Harris in Provincetown, and they raised a couple $1 million. So I was there last week talking to folks, and they were just all blown away by Senator McBride and the fact that they're going to see a leader of her caliber in Congress. But I think this is important to note because it's not just at the federal level that we have trans elected officials. And with your indulgence, I want to do a quick shout out to all of our trans folks who are currently serving in state legislatures. I'll be quick, I promise, but I think it's important because it shows how much power we have. So we have Allison Turcott, New Hampshire. We have Danica Rome, of course, the great Danica Rome in Virginia. We have Brana Tatone in Colorado, who is just doing so much good and has been elected to 4 terms now. We have Jerry Cannon and Lisa Bunker in New Hampshire. We have Taylor Small in Vermont, Maury Turner in Oklahoma, Zoe Zephyr, of course, in Montana, who stood tall against bigotry and won. We have Leigh Fink in Minnesota, James Rossner in New Hampshire, and S.J. Howell in Montana. And as of this past Saturday, and this is a big story, Kim Coco, an activist in Hawaii, defeated the state house speaker in a hard-fought primary, and she is going to be the first openly trans elected official in a state legislature from Hawaii. We have so much power. We have way more power than they think. That's for damn sure. And when we use that power, when we organize together and have each other's backs, we can do great things. There are over 500,000 elected offices in the United States, and a lot of these right-wingers just run unopposed for school boards, for city councils, for statewide offices. We can take the power by organizing together with our allies and make sure that 2 decades from now, seeing an openly trans elected official will be commonplace. It won't be something special. It'll just be what's expected. So here's my ask of y'all. Go to transformthevote.org. Make sure your voter registration's good. Make sure your friends and family have their voter registration good. Donate, canvass, block walk. Y'all, we are going to win this election in November, and we're going to transform how our community is able to live and navigate the world around us. Thank you so much. And Josie, it is my honor to send it back to you.
Thank you, friend. Well said. I just bringing it back to why we're here. Trans power. The names on that list are powerful. We're going to have some of these representatives actually speaking tonight, so you stick around. We're actually got some other of those amazing humans speaking tonight. So yes, and if you are on this stream right now and you haven't liked it or haven't shared it, if you're on the YouTube side, make sure you do that. Let's get this big. Let's go. This is growing every minute. I'm looking at this. It's growing so fast. So let's keep it going. Let's share far and wide. This is historic. Be a part of history. Tell your friends to do it too. So with that, please let me introduce as we shift our amazing ASL interpreters to give a moment. Thank you so much. And without further ado, I will introduce Ben Ackerley.
Thank you, Josie. Hi, my
Hello,
name is
Ben.
Ben.
Thank you.
Ben Ackerley. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm here tonight both as a non-binary adult and the parent of a transgender child. My passion in life is building queer communities, and I'm in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Like some of you, maybe many of you, I'm not sure, but I spent most of my life on the sidelines of the political world. I didn't feel like that was something that I could change. It seemed inaccessible, and maybe a little bit unimportant. But that changed last year when the Georgia legislature began to propose and then pass legislation that targets transgender kids. And I know we've seen that all across the country. Personally, here in Georgia, I have seen firsthand how important elections are to protect our rights as transgender and gender expansive people. I've spent the last year and a half meeting one-on-one with our legislators in Georgia, and I am repeatedly met with open hostility and bigotry. In order for us to ensure that we achieve equality and protect our access to healthcare, our safety, and our futures, we have to elect leaders that will have our backs. Obviously, we're here tonight because Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have proven that they will champion our voices and protect our rights. Now, this doesn't just mean that we need to vote. That's table stakes. That's the entry. We have to mobilize our communities. We have to knock doors. We have to donate. We need to show up for politicians up and down the ticket and show them that we're here and we're a force to be reckoned with. I loved the stat at the beginning of the call that that transgender people are more likely to be registered to vote and more likely to participate in activism. So we have the opportunity to use that ourselves and in our broader communities to show up to elect Kamala Harris as president. We are obviously a diverse community with lots of different priorities and different concerns. But I truly believe that for the next 83 days, our most important priority needs to be mobilizing our community members and our allies to support Kamala Harris for president. If you are here in Georgia, I'd love to connect with you. We can work together to elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz this November, and then work together to build power in this state and across the country to protect our rights in perpetuity. Thank you. Josie, I'm going to toss it back to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ben. That was incredibly powerful. Thank you for your comments. So our next guest is a representative from the great state of Minnesota. Minnesota's been in the news a little bit. So yeah, why don't we go ahead and bring in Representative Lee Finke of Minnesota.
Thank you so much, Josie. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you for gathering with us tonight. It's a wonderful honor to be invited to participate, to be listed among this incredible list of names. Nothing brings me more joy and more optimism for our future than being in a multiracial, multi-generational community of trans folks. My name is Lee Finke. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a representative in the Minnesota House. 2 years ago, I was elected as the first out trans person in our state legislature. I was elected on the same ballot as our governor, Tim Walz, who was reelected in 22. And I'm sure many of you just for the first time in your lives heard his name last week. But I got to know him fairly well in this work in Minnesota. So I thought I'd just take a minute and tell you about the Tim Walz that I know as we go forward here. I was elected along with 10 other LGBTQ members of the Minnesota House and Senate. We had a record-breaking rainbow wave election. And when I was elected, I went to the governor and his team and I said, I would like to pass the trans refuge bill. I want to become a trans refuge state. And then I want to make sure we don't just say that we're going to protect trans people. I want us to move forward, continuing to pass laws to protect trans people. Protection is not something you can say once, we are going to protect you. It's a lifetime commitment to protection. And Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan made clear that they were on board. They wanted to do this. They cared about it. And I know that we're getting a lot of Tim Walz in our ears right now. And I think what's really important for people to know, it's almost maddeningly true here in Minnesota. He really is the guy that you are seeing on your televisions, hearing on your radio, right? When he says that he wants to stand up to bullies, he means it. And when he didn't just support the trans refuge bill and sign the trans refuge bill and then hope maybe it would just kind of go away and not become a liability. He actually toured states that had banned gender-affirming care and gave speeches about their bully governors and how Minnesota was going to stand up to them and show them the way that we could lead forward by protecting trans people of all ages, including our kids. He doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. He showed up for us again and again as a community. In my second year, when we came back and I wanted to pass a mandate for health insurance plans to cover gender-affirming care, he said, of course, we need to cover the insurance if we're going to offer the care. We passed $1 million of funding to help people move into Minnesota if they needed financial support. He supported that work as well. And what I think is really crucial to me as a trans organizer and legislator is that what's happening in Minnesota, what myself and Representative Leash Kozlowski, Two-Spirit non-binary member, and Breon Curran, another non-binary member of the House, are showing is that when you have trans people and genderqueer people leading in the legislature and a governor who is willing to support, you can push amazing things. I am so proud of what we have done in Minnesota. And I am so proud of our governor who has been supportive all the way along. And I'm so proud that Kamala Harris has recognized his skill and his talent and what he brings to the community. I urge all of you to support him and to support this ticket. And I cannot wait to continue to work to elect these two people who are so boldly out there for trans people in America. Thank you.
Yes, so it's so powerful. Thank you for sharing your personal stories about what Tim Walz brings. You've seen it firsthand and the power that is on this ticket. And if you all agree that Tim Walz is the winning vice president on this ticket, make sure you donate, make sure you volunteer, and make sure that we actually have the next presidential tickets be Harris and Governor Tim Walz. It's so exciting. So exciting. I hope you're jazzed up. I'm seeing people in chat. They are jazzed up. Let's go. This is so exciting. So with that, I will go ahead and introduce our next guest, Everett Maroon.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm so excited to see all of you. And I'm really grateful for so much of the work that these panelists do in their communities. I'm Everett Maroon. I am an Arab American trans man. I use he and they pronouns, and I live in a very blue state in a very red corner of that state, Washington State. I am the co-chair of the Washington State LGBTQ Commission, one of only 6 states in the country to have a statewide commission dedicated to our diverse and beautiful communities. So I'm very proud to do that work. I have faced many of these challenges to our civil rights directly myself over the years. There's a lot of jokes that I tell about it because comedy is sometimes an excellent coping mechanism. So I'm proud to say I've been chased out of every kind of restroom that you can imagine. Personally, maybe less proud to have in my past when I had to drive several hundred miles just to see a doctor who could work with me. So, we have an opportunity tonight to curtail the far right's efforts against our civil rights as the rich and diverse community that we are, right? We live in rural America. We live in urban centers. We live in suburbia. We're people of color. We're more likely to be people of color than cisgender people. We have diversity across the socioeconomic spectrum. But of course, when we see these impingements on our rights, who does it really fall to within trans coalitions and trans communities, right? Trans women of color, people who are living at or below poverty levels, right? People in inner cities that have been underfunded, underinvested, that have been hurt and harmed by racist housing practices and planning practices, people in rural areas where healthcare providers might be few, landlords might be few. You get one person who decides they don't have to house anybody trans, and boom, we have a problem with homelessness past what cisgender populations are looking at. That's what we get when we have government that doesn't care about us, is using pseudoscience to, basically put up a front for animus in all their legislative attempts to harm us and try to erase us from society. Some of these folks are so stuck on trans people, they don't want to read a book by us. They don't want us to have a book in a library that we might have written. They don't want us playing any sports. It's like every day there's some new confangled thing that makes us a threat. All of this is just an attempt to create a false narrative so that people will be afraid and vote. for their candidate that's not a candidate that would support our rights. This is our opportunity to change that narrative, right? I know that having folks in government that will listen to us, listen, when we're not just saying something abstractly about healthcare, we're really talking about providers that know how to give healthcare to us in a respectful and inclusive way, right? Well, we're not just talking about there's something on the books that doesn't allow people to discriminate against us, but then when we are discriminated against, does that government listen to us and give us the means to redress? That's what Kamala Harris is going to give us. She's not going to, thin out the civil rights department within Department of Justice, like we saw in the previous administration from the GOP. We're going to have somebody that listens to us and that will see all of us. As I think Senator McBride said earlier, the quote from Audre Lorde, we are people with multiplicity. And there's so much joy in our community. There's so much strength in our community. I truly love all the trans people I've talked to over the years. I mean, we all have so many opinions, I know, but Kamala Harris is really prepared to stand up a government that's going to push back against these bad ideas that keep percolating through Congress. Stand up for us when we're looking for support at the policy level and at the legal level. There's so much great work being done in so many of our states right now against these dozens of bills that have come out against our civil rights. But this is a great stand that you can take today. So if you can volunteer or if you're able to make a donation, I would really love to see that this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Everett. Take a stand today. We want to take a stand today, right now. When is a better time than right now to take a stand? So give us 1 second to switch around some things, and I am going to bring up our next speaker, who I am excited to bring up. Y'all see me? You see me? Perfect. All right. Here we go. Y'all, I'm going to have a Zoom degree after tonight. I'm going to be like, I don't know, A4. Y'all going to have to hold on to me after tonight. I would love to bring up this next person who is an amazing man, doing amazing work. And after you hear from him this evening, if you're not following him, you absolutely will want to. So let's bring up our next speaker this evening is E.C. Pizarro III. So happy to have you here.
What's going on, man? Thanks for the invite. Good evening, everyone. My name is E.C. Pizarro III. My pronouns are he, him, him, his, and I'm the executive director of a nonprofit organization, but I'm here as myself. Growing up in New Jersey, New York area, I grew up in a really small town, and I'm here because I believe that we need a teacher up in the Oval Office. It was teachers like Governor Walz that made my childhood and growing up as a queer kid in a small town that didn't have a GSA, that didn't have any of those things at that time, and it made it a little bit more easier. I believe that teachers really have the pulse on things, and that can really change not just the country, but the world, right? These policies aren't just words on paper. There's affirmation in their impact on our daily lives. But it's not just the policy, it's the culture. This event, this is historic, this is culture changing. We have to shift the culture to really protect those policies. We've heard a lot about what's going on with trans people, and I'm going to assume there's a lot of trans people on this call. And we're not new to this, we're true to this. We've been in the trenches fighting for our rights. I really want to talk to the allies, to the advocates that are here that aren't trans, to the parents of trans people. Now is your time. This is the moment to stand up with us. Have those conversations with your friends, because right now, everything is on the line. I'm one of those people that have read all 900 pages of Project 2025, and I live in the Deep South by choice. I'm not one of those people that want to move. I live out here for my own mental well-being, and we have to be aware of what's already been taking place in the South. I struggled with what stories I wanted to share because a lot of those stories would jeopardize my livelihood living in the South as a Black, Latino, trans man. So voting for Madam Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Walz is everything that we need to do if you say you love and you're for trans people. I see a lot of the things that they're saying about Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. And one thing that she did is that she was, quote, smart on crime. And I'm not going to say it was perfect, but what I am going to say is she showed her commitment to doing things differently. And as trans people, we know we need to do something different. And now is the time to do something different and to shift the policies and shift the culture so that trans people like me that live in the South, that look like me and that don't look like me, can feel comfortable living in the South and knowing that we can share stories and don't have to worry about getting evicted or being in harm's way because we are trans folks. That's why we're here. And also, don't just look at this election. Look at what's happened locally in your town. Florida has a high potential to turn blue. I don't want y'all to count Florida out. Do not. There's a high potential for Florida to turn blue. And we need all of the help, all of it. Yes, money is good, but as a person that works with getting trans people in the workforce, I know the average salary of trans folks. But what can we do? We can organize. We can make sure that our registration is valid, that we are registered to vote, that our friends are registered to vote, that we go and vote together, and we make sure that we dispel any misinformation that is out there. We have resources and we need to use them. Get out there, make sure that you're registered to vote. Go to transformthevote.org and check your registration. If you're not registered, register. Register. It's just that simple. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm all for Harris. Because I moved to Florida when that man got into office. I already know what it does. We don't need to go back. And as Kamala Harris says, we ain't never going back. I don't know about y'all, but I ain't trying to go back. So if you're trying to go forward, let's vote for Madam Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Walz on Election Day.
Thank you so much, EC. So empowering, so everything. Like, we're not going back. We're going forward. Many sound bites there, y'all. I hope y'all picked up on that. Now is the time to do something different. We're not going backwards. We're going forward. Thank you so much, EC.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to keep going, and we have some more amazing speakers coming up. So let me pull our next person up. Will be Jesse is going to join us. Jesse Gender Earl is going to join us. Come on in. Thank you so much.
Hello. Yes.
Here.
Thank you so much for having me. It is an absolute honor and privilege to be here. I'm deeply humbled to be amongst so many wonderful people. Honestly, I feel like I'm just among so many just amazing folks. So what I just wanted to quick speak to today is just what we have already done as the trans community and what it means for us going forward. I think a lot of us over the past few months and years as a community have been talking about what we stand to lose if someone like Donald Trump gets elected. And we see all of that evidenced by the overt concerted attacks against trans people in our community by Republicans and right-wing politicians and pundits over the past few years. But I think all of us in the past few weeks have felt a great shift in mood and energy throughout this country. And I think why that is goes just beyond the change of Kamala Harris to being the centering of this campaign. But I think it lies deeply within a queer and trans ethos that has started to take over this country, and how much we as a community have to be proud of making that happen. there's been a lot of focus on Kamala Harris's quote, what can be unburdened by what has been. And a lot of people, there's been attacks of that phrase as Luciferian, which I think so many trans people can identify with being called Luciferian. But I think that quote resonates a lot deeper with so many of us, even beyond just the queer and trans community, because we as trans people know what it is like to be burdened by what has been and what supposedly always has to be. We grew up burdened with the supposed knowledge that what is must always be, that we are set on a path that has to endlessly repeat and has been repeating since before we were born. And that to break that, to rupture that path set before us is to be a perversion, a destruction, a corruption, Luciferian. Personally, for me, I spent so much of my youth struggling with hope for the future. I had nothing to fight for, only something that I was fighting against. And even then, I often fight against it. I just followed the path. And there's only so long you can do that before you feel like you're not walking towards anything. I remember going to college and dreaming of being a filmmaker and creator, yet only feeling that the things I could say had already been said a million times before. What was even the point of trying? And I remember going and leaving my college dorms and going to clothing stores and walking around looking at all the clothing that I wish I could wear, and angry at myself that I couldn't even step into the clothing section to express who I was even in that small way. And I almost gave up of walking any path, as I know many trans people struggle with. Yet I was very lucky to have friends who saw what I could be, unburdened by what has been, who picked me up and allowed me to express a version of myself worth fighting for. On one night, on one of my darkest nights, my two closest friends sat with me underneath a tree, and I spoke about the dream that I had in my mind, in my head, of who I wanted to be. I got to speak that dream out loud for the first time of what could be, and it changed everything. It gave me hope, it gave me power. And today, that dream that I expressed that night is my reality. It's what I live every single day. I've been thinking a lot about that lately, and I've been reading a lot of books, especially by an author that I really love, Jose Esteban Munoz, a queer philosopher, who argues for the concept of queer futurity, that he argues that to be queer is to imagine a future beyond the now, that being queer means that we are future stuff, because we create amongst ourselves a microcosm of the future that we wish to push into being, that what we create right now in this very moment together on this live stream and amongst ourselves and our community is making something new beyond the status quo of today. We are, again, that corruption, the perversion of the now, because we hope for a better future. That is the ethos to me that is at the heart of every trans person, is at the heart of the trans community and the queer community generally. It's what led the queer and trans community at Compton's cafeteria riots, at Stonewall, to create the first Pride, to stand up against the Reagan administration during the AIDS epidemic. And it's what led every queer, trans child and adult to fight for themselves in a society that has historically never been willing to support us or have our backs. Heterotemporality says that the children are our future, but in truth, what they are really saying is that children are only supposed to extend the present endlessly forward, to replicate ourselves over and over again. But we as a community choose a future beyond now. To say, when we say our children are our future, we mean that we hope they move beyond us. And I think for the first time since 2016, many Americans are feeling that we are not fighting to preserve the now or against the worst, but fighting for a future of what can be, to create a reality of what has to be. In a world that has constantly attacked trans people, Harris has shown a commitment to us over and over again to protect our healthcare and work to expand it for more trans people who need it, especially those who are most vulnerable in our community, the people of color, the trans people of color who need it the most. she has fought to protect our rights and allow us to take part in work towards that better horizon for all of us. To understand that our future is queer, our future is trans. The ethos at the heart of our community, that has always been at the heart of our community, is what's driving Kamala's campaign forward. The dream that drove that young trans kid sitting underneath that tree to tell her friends her dream is what can lead our entire country. And I see that in what is happening right now with this campaign. We are not fighting against something, but we are fighting for something. So I think I speak for all of us here when I say we are ready to fight for, in the words of a person we're all here for today, what can be, unburdened by what has been. So thank you so much to everybody for allowing me to be here, and thank you for letting me speak. And again, I'm honored to hear what everyone else has to say.
Thank you so much, Justin. We're honored to have you. Such an empowering, everybody has such empowering and impactful messages tonight. And let's keep that spirit going as we're checking our registration. The links are coming up in the chat as we're sending donations. Everybody send out your donations. Make sure we're supporting the Harris campaign as much as we can. So we are going to move into our next speaker, and that is going to be Adonis Gutierrez. Can you come in and join us?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to make history tonight. So my name is Adonis Gutierrez. Pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm joining you from McAllen, a city located at the tip of South Texas, right at the Mexican border. So my personal journey as a Latino trans man and a double minority made me acutely aware of the challenges that the transgender and gender nonconforming community face every day. These include navigating the systems that often overlook or misunderstand our needs, from healthcare to legal protections. We must keep advocating for comprehensive healthcare that meets our needs, support policies that combat discrimination, and foster inclusive environments where we can all thrive. By voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, I'm endorsing a vision of leadership that values every person's dignity and rights. Their commitment to fairness and equality really gives me the hope that my community will not just be seen, but heard and valued. In supporting these leaders, we're choosing a future where every person can live authentically and without fear. I honestly believe that together we can build a society that fully embraces and supports the diverse spectrum of our identities and everything that makes us all unique. Thank you for listening and joining us today. I really do ask for your support in making all these positive changes a reality. And I'm here to encourage everyone to support leaders who are dedicated to advancing justice and equality for all. Please consider making a donation and to support their vital efforts. As you know, your contribution, no matter the size, helps amplify our voice and supports the essential work done to create a more just and inclusive society. Thank you so much for the invitation tonight. I really appreciate it, and I'm honored to be sharing the space here with each and every one of you all.
Thank you so much, Adonis, for joining us. Such great, impactful messages. I think it's really important that we show tonight the diversity of who we are. We don't just look one way. We don't just live life in one way. So it's so important and so impactful to see the diverse voices we have tonight. The audience we have is diverse, and it shows the expansiveness of trans community. So again, I'm overwhelmed with emotion and so excited about this, and I hope other folks are as well. And we're going to keep moving. So I have another exciting speaker coming to you now. We have Honey Mahogany coming to join us. Hey, Honey, how are you?
Hey, I'm well. How are you, Sebastian?
I'm doing well. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Again, everyone, my name is Honey Mahogany, she, they pronouns. And for identification purposes, I currently serve as the director of the Office of Trans Initiatives here in San Francisco. I'm also a co-founder of the Transgender District, the immediate past chair of the San Francisco Democratic Party. I currently serve as a Harris Walz delegate to the DNC. So I'm here today, like many of us, because I am very excited to be a part of a historic, progressive, no-nonsense ticket that can actually move us forwards and towards forming a more perfect union. because we are not going back to the dark ages. My parents came to this country as immigrants because they believed in the American dream. And while we all know that the American dream has long been unattainable for many of us, including many of us on this Zoom tonight, I am proud of the long legacy we have in this country of people who are fighting to change that. And I believe that it is our duty to continue this fight for equity, for progress, and to create a better country and a world. I'm a social worker by training, and I've spent the last 20 years working on behalf of underserved communities. And as the current director of the Office of Trans Initiatives and a founder of the Transgender District here in San Francisco, I know what's possible. And it is possible to have trans-affirming services, initiatives to end trans homelessness, trans universal basic income pilots, trans healthcare, job protections, anti-discrimination laws, and equity initiatives for our community. But as the former chair of the San Francisco Democratic Party and as a delegate, I'm also very much aware that despite this progress, really, truly, none of us are safe. Even here in San Francisco and in California, we continue to be under attack. We have faced multiple lawsuits from right-wing orgs and activists trying to erase any attempt at equity or inclusion. And with the current composition of the Supreme Court, we've seen exactly what can happen. Trump has done irreparable damage to our country and our community during his time in office, and we cannot afford another Trump presidency. I'm here to fight to elect Harrison Walz so we can continue the progress that the Biden-Harris administration has made. I'm fighting for permanent protections for people of color, for Black people, for immigrants, for queers, for trans people, for bodily autonomy, and so much more. And finally, I want to acknowledge this, that the work cannot stop on November 5th. We have to continue fighting and pushing to ensure that we have progressive Democratic majorities in the House and in the Senate so we can effect the change that we need to see. We also need to continue to push to hold future President Harris and her administration accountable to their promises and to the needs of not just our community, but all of us who experience marginalization and persecution. So I'm in this for the long haul. I hope we all are, and our community knows what it means to fight long and hard in our whole lives. And we have to keep fighting, and we've got to take that fight to the ballot box every single election cycle. So let's do this. Let's win this November and beyond, because we are what? We are not going back. We are not going back.
Absolutely. We are not going back, and we cannot stop after November. Honey, thank you so much for pointing that out. I think that is so important that we know the work continues. The work continues to hold administrations accountable, hold our legislators accountable to the things that we need. So again, thank you for that message. The work does not stop. And I am going to pass it back over to my co-host Josie to take us through a few more of our speakers. Welcome back, Josie.
Yeah, thank you for being the co-host today. Always stunning and fantastic, Sebastian. Wonderful. So, before we pass it on to the next speaker, I also want to do a little bit of representation on my end. I am a trans veteran. I served in the United States Navy for 6 years. I was a reactor operator, and in fact, that's one of my hats right there. And I can even rep my little Navy flag there. And the reason I say that is because after I served during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I actually served before I came out as trans, and then about a decade after, I still did not come out as the Josie that I am in front of you today. But I had the privilege of being able to use my veteran healthcare to get my start of my medical transition. And Honey said it so well about the damage that was done to our systems when Donald Trump was in office before. And now my medication is on the chopping block as they're trying to remove my access to healthcare as a veteran because I am a trans woman. These are the reasons why it is so incredibly important that we elect Vice President Harris and Governor Tim Walz. So vitally important. All of these donations, these volunteer chefs, and all of this work that we are doing here in this historic movement means something, because we are a voting bloc that votes by 10%, according to our respondents on the US Trans Survey, by 10% more than the people who are not trans in this country. And I want you to sink that in for a moment, that we actually have the ability to elect Kamala Harris. Victory runs through the trans movement. And we have to represent, and that is why this movement and this event is so incredibly important to the victory that we will be seeing in November. So please check your voter registration, and if you're not registered, register on transformthevote.org. Donate if possible. Volunteer if you can't donate. Every door, every phone call, every text that we make is going to make the difference in November. And that is why we're here in the unifying effort to make sure that we elect Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz. So with that, I will introduce our next speakers, Rebecca King and Vanessa Ford.
Hello, I am Rebecca
and JR.
King.
I see JR
Yeah,
there.
and
Yes, and JR. I don't
Hello,
want to
hello.
forget you.
I'm Rebecca Kling, she, her from Chicago.
Hi, I'm J.R. Ford, he, him from Massachusetts.
I'm Vanessa Ford, she, her from Massachusetts, and we're all here just for you. We're actually training a district tomorrow together, Rebecca and I.
I am a trans advocate and educator, and I am a co-founder of the trans-led social impact consulting firm, Better World Collaborative. We elevate stories of trans and non-binary people and allies to build support for pro-trans policies. I've also worked for more than a decade with a summer camp for trans and non-binary youth, and it's through all of that work that I met Vanessa and JR and their fabulous children.
So I'm a longtime classroom teacher, educator, advocate for equity in education, and I happen to be the parent to two amazing children, one of whom is transgender. They are now 13 and a half, but in 2015, they said to us, "I'm a girl in my heart and my brain." And we knew we needed to find support. At the time, we lived in DC, and we found the National Center for Transgender Equality. We found Rebecca and a number of other amazing people that helped us share our story to support the trans community.
Vanessa and I wrote the children's book, Calvin. It was inspired by our child. As a Black father to two biracial kids, it was important that Calvin showcase the love and the support that every trans child needs.
Since then, Vanessa and I wrote the Advocate Educator's Handbook, Creating Schools Where Trans and Non-Binary Students Thrive. It speaks to the importance of community, of allies, and of getting our stories out. Because there are so many people who need to hear our stories. They simply don't know what it means to be trans or non-binary. You know, some surveys say that more people in the United States think they have seen a ghost than met a trans person, which leaves out the very important question, but what if the ghost was trans?
I love that joke. We are supporting Harris Walz this November because of something so much scarier than ghosts.
Politicians who want to take away the rights of trans people.
So that's why we're here tonight as parents of a trans child who will vote in 5 years. You can't vote yet. We need you to vote, to help get others to the polls, to support the campaign in any way you can. Do all the things with us.
And, you know, I think I'm going to bring a mirror to the polls when I vote.
Why?
So I can pause, consider the importance of the moment of non-binary people and trans people and allies, look into my mirror, and really reflect. Thank you all for being here tonight, and let's make some history this November.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think I laughed a little too hard at that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good thing I was on mute. It made me laugh
Nothing
out
like a
loud.
good dad joke to help move things along.
Right? No kidding. Thank you so much. So if you are watching on the YouTube or you are wonderfully waiting in the chat with Zoom, I please share the stream. Our Zoom is full. And it is one of those things that we want to make sure that if you're watching on YouTube, share the YouTube link, like, subscribe, right? Let's grow this channel. Let's do this. If you want to see more of this content, do all of those things. And I'll give a brief pause for our wonderful ASL interpreters. Yes, thank you so much, Tristan, and thank you so much, doing such a great job. It is so critically important that we also focus on accessibility as well. So thank you for that. So our next guest is going to be the great Tori Cooper.
Sorry, Josie,
Tony.
we have Tony
Oh,
Newman.
Tony
next.
Newman.
Yes.
Yes, I am so
Tony.
sorry. I went ahead of the program. I dropped the wrong name. The legendary Tony Newman is with us now.
Listen, for me to go before or after Tori Cooper, she is a diva and a legend. Hi, everyone. I'm Tony Newman. I'm a trans woman with 30 years lived experience. I'm an activist and director with 2 nonprofits. You've already heard why we should do what we do. I'm going to do a call to action. I would like them to put up the donate button. I just talked to my partner. He and I are going to donate $1,000 right now, and we're going to ask 10 people to donate $1,000 or as much as you can. Actions speak louder than words. We can do all of these beautiful verbs and pronouns, but they need money. The Democratic Party needs money. The DNC convention is next week. Some of my colleagues will be there. I'm asking you to step up. Put your money where your mouth is, and please, please donate. If 10 people could match up to $10,000 for Tony and Alton, that would be great. We'll do that tonight in support of this. You've heard why. Now we know what you need to do. I want to thank everyone for putting this together. Dr. Elijah Nicholas for including me. I'm just here to do a call to action. I love the beautiful words, but now we need donations. The link is in the chat room. Donate $5, $10, $15, $20. Put your money where your mouth is if you believe trans folk, TGNC individuals deserve fair and equal treatment. Thank you all and much love. Take care.
Thank you so much. Wow, action, words. Words can't speak how hard that action that Tony just brought to the table. I also want to mention Honey Mahogany just matched that 1,000 as well. So let's keep it rolling.
Thank you, Mahogany. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you for that. And I'm gonna be texting the Harris campaign and being like, what's our numbers at? Where's my numbers at? So we'll get a great update on all of those incredible donations. Our next guest, I am so honored to be able to introduce and to call a friend in this powerful movement. And words cannot describe how powerful of an individual that Representative Zoe Zephyr and her leadership brings to the state of Montana. So please help me in welcoming Representative Zoe Zephyr.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Josie, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you to all of you here in the chat. I've been scrolling through the list of attendees. I see some wonderful folks here, good friends from all over the country. I also see some super amazing folks like the good old Lily Wachowski, co-creator of The Matrix, is in our chat tonight. I also want to say thank you to everyone. I also want to take a moment here to talk about frameworks. I specifically want to talk about what difference it can make when we have the right people in office, not just for the policies they push, but the way it impacts lives on the ground. It's no secret that I'm here in Montana, a state that saw over 50 anti-trans bills in 2023, many of which I stood up and fought hard against in our legislature. I'm also thinking of Representative Lee Finke in Minnesota, who talked about her work out there pushing a trans refugee bill and helping cover medication, and the way Governor Walz supported her when she came to him and said, these are policies that will change the lives of our community members. That is a framework in Minnesota that changed the lives of trans Minnesotans, but it also changed the lives of people within my community here in Montana. I remember stopping for gas out in eastern Montana in Miles City and meeting a young trans couple who were 20, 21 years old, and they were saving up money to move to Minnesota because of the legislation that had been passed there. That's the type of legislation that can only happen when you have the right people in office and the people who will listen to trans community members when we step forward and say, this is the kind of care we need. It's also no secret that Donald Trump and his 2025 Project 2025 agenda are staunchly anti-trans. When he spoke in Montana late last week, he said, quote, on day one, I will end, quote, the transgender insanity in schools. He's made it clear from the very beginning, he will attack our community. And if you look at the Project 2025 document, one of the things it does is define our very existence as pornographic in some way. You know, I have a wonderful fiance, soon to be wife, and we have an 8-year-old. And I think about the times that I have walked my son to the bus stop and had wonderful conversations with other parents, made play dates for our son's birthday or holidays. And I think about the way in which Donald Trump's vision for America defines my being a parent, defines the love I have for my family as somehow pornographic, somehow inappropriate. And for me, that is one of the things we fight against. But when I talk about frameworks, it's also important to recognize that the Biden-Harris administration has pushed many pro-LGBTQ policies. Particularly, I'm thinking about how the Department of Justice under Biden and Harris have sued states, Tennessee, Alabama, etc., who have pushed bans on gender-affirming care. Earlier this year, they even are suing the state of Utah for discriminating against a trans woman in prison who had denied her medication. This is important to have these people on your side because that's the way we stop the attacks when they go through some of these state level legislatures. But it's also important to know that those folks who we say are on our side, that they're listening to us when we come to our needs, they're also listening to us when they make missteps. You know, I think about this 4th of July holiday when there was a statement came out from the Biden-Harris administration around gender-affirming care that was not what many of us had hoped for. I, along with many of my trans legislative colleagues across the country, put a letter together, reached out to the Biden-Harris administration, and then got a meeting and spoke with the Biden-Harris administration to get reaffirmation that they would fight the bans on gender-affirming care and other discriminatory policies against trans people across this country. Carte blanche. That is the type of support that we want to see from an administration. And I know in my conversation, when I met with the Vice President Harris, I said, I want to make sure you are not going to leave anyone in our community behind. She looked me in the eye and she said, we will fight for you, I promise. That is one of the reasons I am here on this call. It is the reason I hope all of you recognize that when we vote for the Harris-Walz ticket, we are voting for people we think are going to bring us forward, but we are also voting for the framework under which we will continue to fight for trans liberation across this country. I hope you join me in volunteering, donating if possible, and feel free to reach out with any questions as you see fit. Thank you again, everyone. It is an absolute pleasure to be here.
Thank you. You are a rock in our community. I really appreciate the frameworks and really speaking to the importance of this. I actually got a contact back from the Harris campaign, so we'll be getting an update on our numbers soon. And speaking of soon, we also have a legendary closer to talk to us tonight. So make sure you are sticking around. It is the living legend, Miss Major. And so please stick around. We also have an all-star guest as well. We have so many all-stars. I mean, we have so many all-stars left. But I do want to mention JVN will also be joining the call later as well. So please stick around because we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do. This is about unity. This is about all of us coming together. So make sure you stick around, you donate, you check your voter registration, and share this stream around. Let people know that there are amazing humans coming on to speak, just like the ones that we have heard, and more to come. So with that, I would love to introduce also my friend here in the state of Maryland, Lee Sin Jin Sheng Song.
Hello all, this is Lee Sin Chen, also known as Lydia XC Brown, pronouns they, them. I'm a youngish East Asian person with short black hair, glasses. I'm in front of a fake background that shows wall-to-wall, floor-to-ceiling bookcases. I am wearing a collared shirt, a watermelon pin, and a rainbow-colored Magen David necklace. I'm a trans mask person, and I am joining from the unsurrendered homelands of Piscataway Conoy and Susquehannock peoples. I'm also a member of the Baltimore County Democratic Central Committee, and I am a candidate for Maryland State House as an openly trans and openly disabled person. And I want to talk with you about why I'm here and why I believe it's important for our community to step up and to make our vote matter this fall. I've been a longtime community organizer, and so that means I spend a lot of my time deep in grief, in sorrow, and rage for conditions at home in our own communities and conditions globally. It means that I spend a lot of my time fielding late night phone calls, sometimes at 4 a.m. from other trans and disabled and queer people who are telling me about the latest abuses and the latest horrors and the latest terrors that they are fleeing, the crises. Many of you who are here are familiar with those calls. When we are a beacon in our communities, we know that we are often the only ones who will save us. We're the only ones who will liberate us, and we can't wait around for somebody else to do it. And so for many of us, we question, why vote? Why donate? Why volunteer? Why be involved? And it's easy to give into defeatism. It is easy to believe the myth that every single politician and political leader and political party are identical. And the reality is we've got a lot of work to do. We've got a long way to go. There is not a single candidate that I can think of who is perfect or an ideal. There is not a single candidate who hasn't made mistakes or even caused grave harm in some way or another, because they're human. And it is our responsibility to ask them to take accountability for that. But as I've been reminded continually, and I hope to remind us all and our community members tonight, when we vote, we're not just voting for somebody or even against somebody else. We are voting for the conditions that we will be organizing under. We are voting for the conditions that will dictate the terms on which we will be organizing, agitating, and advocating. It matters who holds office. It matters who they appoint. It matters who they are willing to listen to. In 2022, after the Dobbs decision came down from the Supreme Court, I was one of a small group of majority BIPOC and queer disabled advocates who met with Vice President Harris. We met with Harris to share concerns from our communities about those most impacted by reproductive injustice, deprivation, exploitation, and harm. And Harris showed that she was willing to listen to and understand our communities. She did her research. She connected with us as humans, and she also connected with us as professionals and as experts. A Harris administration is one that I would be much more eager to be organizing under than a future Trump administration. There is a material difference. Now, make no mistake, we will keep advocating at and beyond the ballot box. If we care about protecting trans kids, about protecting reproductive health care, about protecting disabled people, disabled people in prison, disabled people who are homeless, disabled trans people whose very existence is being leveraged to attempt to restrict access to gender-affirming care. If we care about trans people abroad in Palestine, in Tigray, in Sudan, and everywhere under siege, then it matters what kinds of people will hold office and who they will be listening to and willing to hear from. It matters the conditions that we are organizing under. We will not stop fighting. We never have, we never will. And so I urge you, our community members, to step up and consider voting, volunteering, continuing and deepening our engagement up through November and long past November. Our community is here for the long haul, and we are here for liberation for all.
Wow, powerfully said. The conditions for which we are living in and organizing in and voting in. I'm just those are going to bring with me for a long time. And I'm going to start using that. So well said, well said, well said. So with that, I am going to pass it over back to my co-host, the great Sebastian Smith.
The great Sebastian Smith. Don't do that,
Always.
Josie. Don't do
Always.
that. Don't do that, Josie. We all are great. We are all so great. All right, y'all. We are headed to switch to our next speaker. So we've had some amazing trans folks who are holding office tonight to talk, and folks that are running for office. So I think that's so important that we support our trans elected officials and our folks who are running for office. So make sure y'all stay connected with us, because we have some exciting things coming on that front as well for folks who are interested, trans and non-binary folks who are interested in running for office. So next up, I have someone coming from Commissioner Brady Davis' office to speak to us right now. One second.
Oh, well, it's off.
Hello.
Oh.
I can hear you. Give me 1 second to spotlight you.
Hello.
There you go. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Jennifer Gear. This is my colleague Michael. We're from Precious's office. She is resting, looking forward to speaking at the convention, but unfortunately couldn't be here because of an emergency surgery. So we wanted to read a statement from her. Precious is a commissioner on the board of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District here in Cook County, and she is the first Black trans person to hold public office in Chicago and all of Cook County. So I'll read the statement now. Unfortunately, I am recovering from an emergency surgery and unable to join you on camera tonight, but that won't stop me from sharing my enthusiastic support to elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States. I am proud to be one of the 1.6 million people who identify as transgender living in America, and rest assured that Vice President Kamala Harris's long stand with trans people will propel us forward in a time when Trump and his cronies are determined to roll back the clock and take us back to a time when living in the shadows was a way of life and the status quo. Under the leadership of President Biden and Vice President Harris, we saw tangible actions that uplift our lives. On day one, we saw an executive order signed to prevent and combat discrimination on the basis of gender identity and sexual orientation. They reversed the ban on openly transgender service members in the military and advanced a policy that all students should be guaranteed an educational environment free from discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is proclaiming on day one he will abolish the Department of Education, and last night he said he needs someone like Elon Musk to help him do it. Musk is a man who won't acknowledge the existence of his own trans daughter, Vivian Jenna Wilson, and we think this is disgraceful. We don't have to guess what will happen with another 4 years of a Trump presidency. He'll prevent trans folks from participating in sports. He'll limit gender-affirming care for trans youth. He'll implement book bans to remove LGBTQ plus issues and accurate racial history from our classrooms. And he'll appoint conservative justices to the federal bench and the Supreme Court who will continue to take away our rights for decades to come. We have the chance to choose what kind of country we want to be by electing Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in November. Both have been advocates for the LGBTQ plus community throughout their time in public service, and we can count on them to protect our rights in the White House. Between now and November, I'll be doing everything I can to ensure we elect our first female president, and I am grateful to be in this fight with you all.
Thank you so much. And please send all of our healing and best wishes and all the things to Commissioner Brady Davis. And I'm so happy she still was able to send some words to us. So thank you so much to her and to her office as well for joining us tonight. All right, y'all, we are over halfway there, and we've had some amazing speakers, and we still have just a few more to go. So thank you all for holding tight with us tonight for your donations. We're going to get an update about that really soon. But again, I want to thank everybody for just being here with us tonight and hanging in and having these important conversations and listening to our powerful and impactful speakers that we have tonight. So next up, we have someone who, I could speak for my staff on this one. There is not one time that we reach out to these folks that they don't answer their call. So I would like to welcome Dr. Jerica Kirkley into the room to come and address us tonight. And also thank you so much for always a yes when the A14 reaches out.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sebastian. Can you hear me okay? All right. Well, I first want to thank all my fellow advocates, friends, and allies from and supporting the TGNC community who are on this call and everybody listening in. It is truly incredible and humbling to be with you all. And a very special thank you to the advocates for trans equality who have done so much to help lead our community's advocacy efforts and have truly been a shining light of hope for all of us around the country. As Sebastian said, I'm Dr. Jerica Kirkley. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a proud trans woman, a family physician, and the co-founder and chief medical officer of Plume. We're a virtual gender-affirming care clinic serving the trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming community across the country. Plume has been deeply humbled to serve more than 35,000 trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming folks across the United States over the last 5 years, and providing life-saving and medically necessary gender-affirming care, as well as other health, wellness, and community support services. And we've seen firsthand the challenges that we all face every day. As you all know, our community has faced unrelenting attacks over the past few years in particular. Just this year, we've seen more than 600 pieces of anti-trans legislation proposed at state houses across the country, which span all aspects of our lives, including, of course, restricting and banning medically necessary care. Over 160 bills have targeted healthcare, threatening not only our lives, but also clinicians and entire health systems who provide this care with criminal penalties for providing gender-affirming care that we know is evidence-based, shown to improve our well-being, and supported by every major professional medical association in this country and around the world. These attacks threaten not only our freedom as trans folks, but the very foundation of democracy and the freedom of all people. These attacks will undoubtedly not only continue, but increase under a Trump presidency. Trans people deserve equal access to healthcare, housing, employment, and frankly, a safe, affirming environment wherever that might be, school, work, a healthcare facility, or society in general. We cannot go back. We will not go back, and we're not turning back the clock on years of progress, not just as a trans community, but as a nation to fight for a better and brighter tomorrow, where you and I are treated as equals, where all of us have equitable access to the care that we need, and our fundamental rights are not just protected, but guaranteed. And that's why today we at Plume are proud to endorse the Harris Walz campaign, which has shown a commitment and strong track record of protecting and advancing the rights of LGBTQIA+ community, including, of course, our trans and gender diverse community. So I and all of us at Plume know that the time for action is now. Elections do have consequences, and we all need to be involved. We all need to vote. We all need to tell our friends to vote. We cannot afford to sit on the sidelines, and we must step up. So in the coming weeks, we at Plume are going to work in partnership with folks like the amazing A4TE and other community partners to ensure that folks have access to the resources and information that they need to get registered to vote, to learn more about the issues that we're facing. So in closing, just want to again thank you, Sebastian, thank all of you at A4TE for hosting tonight, for all of you attending this call, for donating, for voting, and giving me the space to speak to you today. So stay safe, stand proud, and I know that together we can truly achieve great things. So let's go out and make history, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go out and make history, y'all. Make it together. Make it together. Thank you so much, Dr. Kirkley, again, for always answering the call, for always giving us a yes, and then for always being in these groups, right? Being in these conversations, because I know it, so important that our service providers are also a part of these conversations. So thank you again to the Plume team and to Dr. Kirkley for joining us tonight. And our next speaker, as we are powering our way through it, is Senator Danica Rowan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. It's wonderful to see you. And Iris, thank you so much for your translation service tonight as well. Thank you so much to everyone who has spoken and been a part of this tonight. So my name is Danica Rowan. I'm grateful to represent the people of the 30th District of the Senate of Virginia, which includes City of Manassas Park, and my lifelong home of Prince William County. For those of you who can't see, I am a trans femme woman. My pronouns are she and her. I have long brown hair and I have white blinders behind me. I have a black shirt on. And Prince William County is the historic homeland for the Doeg, Monacan, and Mohawk tribes. And a lot of people know me on this call for being the first out and seated trans state legislator in the country who defeated the self-described chief homophobe of Virginia in 2017. And in the 7 years since then, I've had a lot of success. I've been able to pass 51 of my bills into law, all with bipartisan support, including 3 of my LGBTQ equality bills, one of which defined transition-related medical care as medically necessary in the Code of Virginia and prohibited discrimination against transition-related medical care. And this was at a time where we passed about 24 pieces of legislation to make Virginia a nationwide leader in LGBTQ equality. At the same time, though, it's one thing to be in office and to have a claim to fame, to get to do nice things. It's another thing to remember where you came from to get there. And 20 years ago, in 2004, I was a college student. I went to St. Bonaventure University in Western New York, go Bonnies. And when I would be home from college, maybe once every few weeks, maybe once every couple months, I would go into DC because I felt like it was going to be the only place where I could quite literally let my hair down and go into an LGBT club like Apex, for example. I remember I would park my car sometimes on P Street, Northwest, outside of DuPont Circle. I'd walk over Lawson's Legion Bridge, past the gas station, turn right, and the whole time I'm walking from my car, I'd have my hair in front of my face. I would just be like this. I would look down, and I would try to basically do kind of like this power walk as quick as I could to get inside. And I would just think in my head, oh God, please don't let anyone recognize who I am. Please don't let anyone see my face. Don't let anyone know who I am. Don't let anyone know that I'm trans. Don't let anyone just see me here. And I would do that even when I had my best friend, Lauren, walking with me, because sometimes it was out of fear of physical attack, and sometimes it was going to be out of fear of being outed, because someone I would have known from high school, someone I would have known would have said, hey, I know who that is. That was 20 years ago. And the same time, I was just looking for any avenue to express who I was. On the other side of the country, then District Attorney Kamala Harris, in her first year as an elected official, on Valentine's Day that year, stood in City Hall and started performing same-sex weddings right after then Governor Newsom, or then Mayor Newsom, said that it was legal in San Francisco. obviously a lot of things happened in the time after that with Prop 8 and everything. And Kamala Harris fought Prop 8 as hard as she could. And when she was Attorney General, she fought for overturning it, and she fought for our rights before it was fashionable, before it was a cool thing to do in the Democratic Party, before people thought it was good politics. She did it when it was the right thing to do. And she did it the first year that I was voting in 2004, when I voted for John Kerry for president. And then fast forward 9 years and change later, it's December 31st, 2013. I'm in spending the night in Boston with a couple of friends, going to a New Year's Eve party. I've been on HRT at this point for 28 days, going into my journey. And here I am walking into the bar where the New Year's Eve parties and everything. And this woman with an Irish accent stops me in the restroom. And not because I had done something wrong, not because I freaked anyone out or anything. And she just says, "So, honey, are you trans?" And I said, "Yes." And I was just nervous. And she's like, "Well, the reason I know, it's not because how you look. It's not because you did anything. It's because you have no confidence. You're the only person who walked in to this bar with your head down and your hair over your face. Just be yourself. It's okay." And I remember that not because it was a bad criticism, but because she was telling me, "Hey, you belong here too." Sometimes you need an ally, someone who you don't even know, just to tell you that you belong. And sometimes when people who don't have your best intentions at heart are the ones who are making the calls, they want you to be closeted because they don't want you to even come out in the first place, because they think that this in and of itself is wrong. They think this needs to be hidden. This needs to go away because this is a plague on our society, is the way that they will see it. For whatever way, we've seen this happen over and over and over again with not sort of kind of maybe hateful speech, but outright demagoguery to the point that it leads to actual harm for our community. There's no reason that the same legislators who have filed hundreds of anti-trans bills in the last few years are not taking care of their constituents. They've chosen to do that. And yet, when I see Senator Vance, see former President Trump repeating the same talking points that the same people doing this are doing, say, you can't serve your constituents by attacking them. I didn't get 51 bills signed into law because I was attacking the people I was elected to serve. People I was elected to serve in 2017, 2019, 2021, and now in the Senate in 2023. I got that done because I talked to my constituents and I said, what can I do to help? And then I went to people on both sides of the aisle. What can I do to earn your support? That's what a leader is supposed to do. And with a President Harris and a Vice President Walz, we know for a fact, as a statement of fact, that we will have a seat at the table as their constituents, where each day they say, what can we do to help you today? Not how can we harm you? Not how can we take away someone else's rights in order to provide you with more rights, as we hear other people say. What can we do to treat you as Americans who are worthy of protection as guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America and by the laws that govern this country? We heard earlier a couple folks say we're not going back. Folks, I love heavy metal. I love banging my head, going to a good show, and love letting my hair fly. But I'll never have my hair draped over my face again because I'm too afraid for someone else to see who I am. I'm not going back to those days where I let fear govern my life, and I'll never stop advocating for who we are, because we belong here because of who we are, not despite it, and not for what discriminatory politicians tell us you're supposed to be. You be you better than anyone else ever could, because you're the only one who ever can. Let's go win this thing this November. Thank you.
Thank you so much in the room. Let's go do this thing. We can do this thing. We can do it together. Thank you for the message. Thank you for all of the work that you have done and for highlighting that stuff. And it's been, I know it's been quite the uphill battle, but we are here now, and we will continue to be together. We will continue to win, but we got to do it together. We definitely got to do it together. All right, y'all. We will keep moving on and move on to our next speaker. And this next person, it is my absolute honor to bring up this next person. I'm going to take just a quick second to just rain some flowers and appreciation on this person. This person is actually one of my mentors. The reason why I continue to do this work at the level that I do this work. And I think it's important that we all have possibility models. So I am so honored to bring on Tori Cooper, again, who is one of my mentors and one of my possibility models, to speak to you all tonight. Miss Cooper, the floor is yours.
Thank you, King Sebastian. I appreciate that, and I'm incredibly proud of you. And hello, everyone. My name is Tori Cooper, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm a proud Black trans woman. I'm not here today because of my job. I'm here today because I love our country and I love our community. Vice President Harris and Governor Tim Walz, well, they represent our country and they represent our future. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance represent a past that was neither kind nor healthy for our country, and certainly not for our folks on this call. We hold the future in our hands. Thank you to the parents and the allies. My colleagues and I did a reading of the book Calvin that you all heard about earlier, and it's just the most amazing book. Miss Tony, I'll actually match your $1,000. I'll say that on camera as well. So I'm here tonight with my peers and chosen family to remind each of you that we are in the fight of our lives. I can't tell you who to vote for, but I can tell you that I am all in, 10 toes down, for Vice President Kamala Harris as our 47th President of the United States of America. Documented record on intellectual freedom in classrooms and libraries, according to GLAAD. She's also been a great advocate for the transgender health care, and also for marriage equality. HRC President Kelly Robinson said her pick of Governor Walz sends a message that a Harris-Walz administration will be committed to advancing equality and justice for all. And all means y'all. Tonight, after this call, please go straight to transformthevote.org to ensure that you are registered to vote. New name, new address. If you've experienced any major life updates since November 2020, then tonight is the time to check your registration and to make sure it's up to date so that you can vote without challenges on Tuesday, November the 5th. And if you are challenged, always, 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 while you're there, ask for a precinct captain immediately. And if necessary, vote using a provisional ballot, but do not leave without voting. So much like Vice President Harris, Governor Walz is a longtime champion for T and LGBTQ people. You see what I did there, Sebastian? I put the T first for a change. In 1999, as a teacher and a football coach, he sponsored the school's first gay-straight alliance group. Yep, a straight dad and a football coach did that. My football coach never did that. At least football coach in my school. But anyway, in Congress, he co-sponsored legislation to repeal the Defense of Marriage Act. He voted to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and voted in favor of the Matthew Shepard, James Beard Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act. In 2004, as a new district attorney for San Francisco, Vice President Harris established a hate crimes unit to investigate and prosecute T and LGBTQ plus violence, and later organized a conference bringing together over 100 officials from across the country to end the so-called gay panic and trans panic defense. As a United States Senator, Vice President Harris co-sponsored the Equality Act and frequently spoke out against violence against trans women of color. As Vice President, Kamala helped to lead the most pro-equality administration in history. So join me and my peers in thanking President Joe Biden for being a leader who endorsed Vice President Harris for president and also who put the country before politics. You may be asking yourself, what's at stake on November the 5th? Well, the truth is our democracy at stake and the freedom to be and to live and to exist and to thrive are all at stake. They fight against us so hard because they see our power. They see our freedom and they want to take it from us. Today is August 13th, and I want to remind you all of some things because some of us have short memories. So August 13th, 2020, many of us were locked in our homes because of Trump's disdain of science and his horrible handling of the COVID pandemic. We can never forget that. August 13th, 1963, a mere 2 weeks before he gave his I Have a Dream speech, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and many others were fighting for civil rights, not just for Black people, but for all people, including the people who are on this call. Pick any August 13th of almost any year before that, and not a single person on this call could live as their most authentic self. Remember the end of science. Remember the end of civility. Remember the end of common sense, the end of decency, and the end of respect for the rule of law, the end of civil rights for all people. If you cannot vote, then contact one of us that's on this call and we will help. If you don't vote, then we want to help you to make the decision to you do your civic duty and to join us. Our community needs you. Our country needs you. Our parents need you, our children need you, our communities need you. People who are living with HIV and other chronic diseases need you. People experiencing homelessness and unemployment need you. People for whom English is not their first language, they need you. People who work every day and aren't paid well enough, who have to take care of their families, they need you. Democracy, freedom, liberty, and justice need you. So I'll be giving my money and my vote to elect Vice President Kamala as the 47th President of the United States of America, and I hope you will join me and all of my friends and peers and colleagues who are on this call in doing so. Thank you so much.
You're muted, Sebastian. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. No, I was giving
It's
some
okay.
love to Tori, so she already knows how I feel about her. So I was just giving you some more love and some more thanks for showing up tonight and being here tonight with me and with us and bringing such a powerful message. Thank you so much. I now am going to pass it back to my co-host, Josie, to take us throughout the rest of our program. We have just a few more speakers. Y'all are holding tight for our amazing speaker to close us out. I promise we are almost there. So thank you all for sticking in with us tonight.
Yes, and thank you so much. It's nice to have a co-host, you get a second to take a drink of water, all of that. But yes, we are keeping this show going. We already have Miss Majors online ready to go. We are, it's exciting. So I have the pleasure of introducing our next guest, Jen Richards. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure, and it's so incredible to be in such just so many amazing speakers. Tori just really brought the roof down, and to see so many old friends, those of us that used to organize back in the day. We've all taken many divergent paths, but it's really lovely to have an excuse to all come back together. Hi everyone, I'm Jen Richards. I use feminine pronouns, and I'm a writer and actor based in Los Angeles. I also have to say, I just love that Tori brought up Governor Walz's volunteering to lead a GSA in 1999, because those of us who were around and out back then know what a powerful affirmation that was. So we all know what is at risk in this election because we've all had a front row seat to the aggressive attempts to legislate trans people out of existence, with the number of proposed bills aimed at curtailing the rights and freedoms of trans people and disproportionately trans youth going up year after year after year, with 638 bills across 43 states put forth in 2024 alone. I'm going to say that again real quickly. In 2024 alone, across 43 states, 638 bills have been proposed targeting trans people. So, because the practical risks of returning Trump to office have been well covered, I want to talk more broadly about the risk to the public conception of trans people, of who we are, whether we belong, and what we can contribute. And as much as many of us resist binaries, we are in fact facing a binary choice between the Trumpist party and the Harris-Walz ticket. One of those two parties, through their platforms, their funding priorities, government appointments, legislation, speeches, and the general rhetoric that will trickle down from the Oval Office and Congress and the Senate through the media and into the physical spaces that we all navigate, will shape the public's understanding of us. As Lee said so perfectly earlier, we are voting for the conditions under which we will continue our organizing efforts. So, what is that choice? The right sees us, at best, as mentally ill people who maybe deserve a little bit of sympathy, or perhaps as naive youth in the throes of a social contagion. At worst, there are Republicans who will publicly say that we are demon-possessed predators. And when that kind of dehumanizing otherness becomes the norm, we begin to face the threat of increasingly dramatic solutions that prevent us from contaminating the public sphere, which we've seen in the steady rise year after year of violence against trans people who live at that dangerous intersection of gender, race, and class. In the right's view, we do not belong, and all we can contribute is to serve as scapegoats and cautionary tales. The left, broadly speaking, and Harris and Walz specifically, have a very different vision, rooted in an understanding of history, of cultures around the world, and contemporary medical consensus. They see trans people as a natural phenomenon and part of the beautiful and diverse tapestry of humanity. They recognize that we are all only as safe as the most vulnerable among us. They tell us that we belong in schools, in places of worship, in medical offices, workplaces, and in the media. And they recognize that the uniqueness of our experience means that we can make enormous contributions to society. So in a world where we are so often told that we are powerless to change what is given, that whatever we are told, trans people rather, are living proof that whatever is given, whatever we are told is immutable, can in fact evolve for the better. So donate, volunteer, vote, and most importantly, go be yourself in a world that desperately needs our authenticity and joy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is so powerful, so wonderful. Such a great number of things that are said. It's just absolutely stunning, and we are doing incredibly well with donations. I'm going to be getting a full update soon. I did promise it, and it will be coming. If you haven't donated, and you haven't volunteered yet, or if you haven't liked the stream or subscribed or done any of the amazing things like check your voter registration, what are you doing? Go ahead and do it. Be a part of history. Let's make this happen. So with that, I would love to introduce the amazing Hope Giselle.
Hey, everybody. So my name is Hope Giselle. I am the current Executive Director, President, and CEO of the National Trans Visibility March, which takes place next weekend. So I would love to see you all there. But today I want to address a couple of things. We know about the logistics. We've heard all of the talking points about what these folks have done, what they can do, and what they will bring to this presidency. I get that. But let's talk about the things that we don't want to say. All of the things that we've been told that we can't be, the people that we've been told that we won't be able to show up as, the roles that we've been told that we cannot have. And let's look at the people on this call and reimagine that. We have commissioners. We have folks who are on the route to become mayors and possible the first trans president of the United States. We have people who are leading organizations. We have people who have gone from sex work to ED. We have people who have simply changed the way that they think about us. But is this presidency really about getting them to think about us in a different way? Or is it about getting the world to see us as human beings? Far too often, we come onto these platforms and we try to get people to understand that we're just like them, when the truth is, we are not. We are special. We're special because we have the beauty, the power, and the bravery to stand up where they oftentimes sit down. We have the bravery to walk through spaces that they oftentimes curl their head under. We have the space to be able to change the world to fit our needs, not because we want to change the way that everybody else thinks, but because we desire to be exactly who we are in a world that has told us who we can't be, who we won't be, who will never get the opportunity to be because of who we love or how we show up. And to that we say no. This presidency will help us say no. This presidency will allow us to be in rooms where we can actually get our words out, in rooms where we can actually be heard. It does not mean that the candidates will always be perfect. It does not mean that we'll always agree, but it means that at least we'll get a seat at the table to be able to disagree and do so in ways that will assure that we can at least be heard. The latter leaves us dead in the water, some of us quite literally. This presidency and making sure that we get Kamala and Walz in the presidential seat means that we have a fighting chance. It means that we get 4 more years to strategize about what exactly it is that we need. It means that we get 4 more years to define who these leaders are going to be. It means that we get 4 more years to train up the youth in the ways that they should go. Far too often, we leave our jaded ideas of what it means to be trans up to people who have already experienced the world in a negative way. But what happens in the next 4 years if we make sure that these folks get into office is that we allow our youth to become stronger. We allow our messages to become louder. And we allow people in the spaces that have the power, the control, the access and the resource to become folks that we can look up to, folks that they can look up to. All of these folks that are in this room and all these powerful speakers that have gone before you have become the folks that they needed to see when they were growing up. We didn't get a Miss Major because she sat back and allowed somebody else to tell her story. We didn't get a Donna Carome because she continued to throw her hair in her face. We did not get the Sydney Duncans, and we did not get the Rodrigos, and we did not get the Sebastians because we allowed ourselves to be guided by the world and what they told us that we couldn't be. We did not get this call because of who they told us that we couldn't be and what they told us that we couldn't raise. And so I leave you all with this. There are so many people telling us about what we can't do that we oftentimes spend so much time trying to prove them wrong instead of continuing to do what we do best, which is thrive in the face of adversity, break down closet doors, kick down walls that were meant to be built up before us, beyond us, around us, and throw bricks that change history. We have been the change. We have continued to be the effort, and we will continue to be the future. And we can only do that if we have a presidential candidate and folks that truly see us for who we are and understand the plight that we go through without having to experience it for themselves. Because a true leader understands that while they might not have the experience, they can understand and recognize that everyone's humanity deserves to be seen. Thank you all, and I hope to see you in DC next weekend.
Wow, thank you, Hope. Thank you for really doing the level set of why we do this, what this call represents. So I got an update. We are nearly at $20,000 in donations just from this stream alone. Incredible work, everybody. We are getting in congrats and thank yous from all of the people at the Harris campaign right now, but let's keep it going. We still got JVN on the line coming on. We got Miss Major waiting patiently. We have leaders that really do speak to the message that Hope was talking about. And speaking of leaders, one of my inspirations for the work that I do, somebody who said, I will not be silent, I will be heard. I'm so honored to introduce City Council President of Minneapolis, Minnesota, Andrea Jenkins. You are muted.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to be in community with so many amazing, beautiful people. It's deeply inspiring to hear from so many of my friends and colleagues, as Jen said, people who we have organized with in the past. Lee, your comments about why we organize, we are trying to create the conditions in which we will continue to organize in the future is so incredibly powerful. That message needs to continue to be shared. My name is Andrea Jenkins. I am on the Minneapolis City Council. I live and work in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the ancestral homelands of the Dakota, Lakota, Middle Wacaton Sioux, and so many others. It's just so amazing to be here with you all today. I've been on multiple Zoom calls in the past 2 weeks. Black Women for Kamala, Black LGBTQIA folks for Kamala and Walls. I spoke at a rally, a HRC rally, alongside of Kelly Robinson. And each and every time that I had the opportunity to speak, I read this poem. And I know Tony said, beautiful words, this is time for action, donate, donate, donate. So Tony, I did donate, and words still matter. The thing you need to know about this poem is called Sunset over Lake Bede Makaska, is that Lake Bede Makaska used to be called Lake Calhoun. John C. Calhoun was Vice President of the United States of America. He was a vicious slave owner and one of the founders of the Confederacy from South Carolina. So we renamed that lake after its original indigenous name, Lake Bede Makaska. Sunset over Lake Bede Makaska. If they come for me in the morning, they will come for you in the night. Anonymous. The purple one still matters. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. This we accomplish through song. Songs of sadness and joy. We accomplish this through stories of hope and love, pain and trauma. We sing with our hearts pouring like a soaking spring rain. We sing with our voices reaching upwards towards some yet unseen force, some energy greater than what we possess. Searching for the answers to the inherent injustices that we encounter each and every day. This journey to disarm hate. We won't go back. That's the intersectional mantra linking all liberation movements, connecting the personal to the political. It's how the murder of George Floyd is related to the erosion of women and LGBTQIA+ rights. It's how society is lulled into slumber while genocide and dictators persist. What is your response to love right now? Speaking of houses, remember Paris is burning. Remember the house of Evangelista. from the hit show Pose on FX. Yeah, that was for you, Marsha and Sylvia and Major. Y'all built that house. Oh, yes, pride has a story. You see, Marsha, we've been some places. Obama invited us to the White House. Girl, we was kikiing in the East Room, eating crab cakes and drinking Bombay gin and tonics. We went to the Barclays Center in 2019 for the 50th anniversary of Stonewall. And Sara Ramirez sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow in Spanish. There was not a dry eye in the house. That child can sing. Sing with me, sing for the year, sing for the laughter, sing for the tears. Sing with me, if just for today, maybe tomorrow the good Lord take you away. At the end of heavy breathing, while watching the sun setting over Lake Bade, Makaska, I remember that Essex said, nationalism disillusioned me. And you want me to sing, We Shall Overcome? Who will be responsible for the destruction of human love? At the end of heavy breathing, after the sun has laid down, a song of redemption remains. One love. I love you all. Please get out and vote. I voted today in our primaries here in Minneapolis in the state of Minnesota. We need to knock on doors. We need to make phone calls. And most of all, we need to donate money. Please volunteer. Please get registered to vote. Tell all your friends and family this is the most important election of our lifetime. And I know we say that every single year, and every single year it matters. Peace. I love you guys.
Thank you so much, Council President Jenkins. And what is even so powerful as I was choking back the tears of the beauty of all the words you said. And you're a board member of the Advocates for Trans Equality. Like, we have so much power to build and to have inspirational leaders like Andrea Jenkins. Oh, it makes me, I almost started weeping. Like, it was just so beautiful. So thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for who you are. Just thank you. So with that, I want to introduce one of my personal mentors. Sebastian got his mentor. I'm going to have mine here. My personal mentor, someone who helps me stay the course, stay working hard, and gives me the motivation to work every day for the trans rights movement. I'm proud to introduce my mentor and friend, Diego Miguel Sanchez.
Thank you so much, Josie, and everyone. It's always good to hear from Andrea. You know, my sister. There, I gotta say, this is a really important year for us all, and we've heard it from everyone. But I just want to also say that it's important not only to register and to vote, but maybe take advantage of voting early. You don't have to wait for the drama of Election Day to see if you're going to encounter a problem. I would urge people to take advantage of voting early, and then you have an option to volunteer on an election day. It's really important for us to remember that while there are people trying to hold us down, we have more people standing up for us than ever, including ourselves and each other. There was a time, it was when I was coming up, there were no trans lawyers, there were no trans legal organizations, and most of the trans people who were visible actually did know each other. It is so different today. We have each other, we have families, we have supporters who are allies out there. We have employers who tell us that they value us. and they are supportive of who we are. That didn't always used to be true. So just remember that we have greater numbers than ever. We have more strength than ever. We have an opportunity of a lifetime. This election is so critical. It was really important when I was a delegate. It was the first actually openly trans person appointed to the platform committee in 2008. And being able to cast that vote for Barack Obama was important. This one that I'll get to cast again as a delegate for Kamala Harris will be tremendously heartwarming, empowering, and frankly, we don't have to fight for our visibility. We have it. So thank you to A4TE. I'm actually a founding board member of NCTE, one of the component organizations. And let's just keep fighting, keep leaning on each other. If you need to call somebody, do so. We have each other, and don't ever forget that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diego. And I love that you're like on the move. I got to get on here because this is important and historic. So I really appreciate you coming in and giving us those inspirational words and showing us where we also come from with how many legends that are in the room. I do also want to report that we just got another $1,000 match from Jordana Licina on the YouTube chat. So we're doing it. Like, let's keep the flow going. I don't think that people knew that we could keep this donation, volunteers, and it's so incredibly exciting. And we are coming down the home stretch right before we hear JVN, Jonathan Van Ness, and Miss Major and Chastity Bowick. We're all so close, and I get the honor of introducing our next great speaker, Scott Turner Schofield.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Scott Turner Schofield. I'm a trans man. I use he, they pronouns, and I live and work in Hollywood. And like everybody said, it's just an incredible honor to be here with all of you tonight. And to be speaking among so many powerful activists who have made such an impact for our communities. I personally have spent literally my entire adult life working for trans liberation. I began my transition in 2000. I became a professional advocate in 2002 when I started working with disability activists to make single stall bathrooms a requirement for all construction on US college campuses. My consultations, in addition to the tireless work of local activists, led to the addition of gender identity in the non-discrimination policies of higher education. I have trained literally thousands of corporate and government employees in trans allyship, and the fruit of just one of my consultations brought trans inclusive healthcare to over 1.7 million workers globally. And all of this happened in the South before 2015. And now I list these contributions not to brag. I am one person, just like all of you listening, as well as all of these speakers, who did what I could with what I had to help where I could. I share my history just to illustrate the way that trans awareness in mainstream culture has grown and changed over like 25 years now. From nobody caring to a lot of people caring to people actively being radicalized against us. And now I'm devastated to have to address the life-threatening pushback that we are facing within our own communities as well. Other progressives, other trans people who are saying we should not vote for Kamala Harris. Those of us who repeat the Trumpist disinformation that our votes don't matter anyway. Folks who plan to let everything we've all worked for and everything that we all are be destroyed under a Trump administration. This is happening because we have been dehumanized, and we continue to be. The media messages and political rhetoric that we can't escape takes a toll. It makes us feel worthless. It makes us feel like this country is worthless. But we can't dehumanize ourselves further by dehumanizing each other based on what we will or won't do in November. We must remind one another of our humanity, and that only Kamala Harris respects our humanity. We have to call one another back to our humanity and fight for our humanity together. We deserve it. And we deserve the respect and protection and empowerment that only Kamala Harris will give us the space and the power to create. When we hear that we shouldn't vote for Kamala Harris from the people in our beloved communities, I want to offer a tactic. Don't get mad. Don't cut them off. Don't call them names. The same way that we choose to be kind to some of the people who misgender us, the same way that we enact the teachable moment, take a deep breath and have a calm and kind and real conversation. Name the work that you have done, whether it's your personal work or your activism in the community, because all of that is world changing. But then also ask really sincerely and kindly, ask about their work or remind them of all that they have contributed to make this world as good as it can be so far. And then reflect together on what we all will lose together if Kamala Harris doesn't win this election. We have to lovingly and sincerely encourage our friends who are struggling with the very real difficulties of our political moment right now to keep changing the world. We can only under the conditions created by Kamala Harris in the White House. And I send very sincere love to everyone on this call. Thank you for all of the ways that you have loved this world and brought change and goodness to it.
Thank you so much for those sincere and powerful words, Scott. It is absolutely incredible. And before we move on to the next speaker, I just want to give a big thank you to Tristan, Wright, for their tireless interpretations tonight. And I know that they're going to be leaving us today. So at this moment, so thank you. And thank you, Iris, for sticking it out. I know it's got to be incredibly difficult, but thank you. We are so grateful here because we got some energy moving. We are now over 21,000 donations and we are still rising. So let's keep it going. If you haven't donated, please go and do that now. If you haven't liked the stream, make sure you're doing that as well and volunteer. And if you haven't checked your voter registration because you think it's right, you better go double check on transformthevote.org. So we are coming down the home stretch. We have one more incredible speaker before we move on to Jonathan Van Ness and Chastity Bowick, as well as Miss Major. But we must hear from the fantastic Shannon Parker.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me okay?
Can hear you great.
Awesome. Thank you. I really want to take the moment to lift up Zahara Bassett. Zahara, again, thank you so much for convening us here this evening. Thank you for including me. I'm Shannon Lynn Parker, she, her pronouns. I'm a CEO of a Chicago nonprofit. And what I really would like to say is, y'all, we are faced with two paths. One towards progress, where our hard-earned rights are protected, and the other, a dangerous step back into the past that tried so hard to erase us. So many in our community have fought, bled, died for the rights we have today. And I really want to ground us in that reality. While we may not achieve a perfect future overnight, we have to keep moving forward. That's the reality of the situation. Our vote is our voice, and they so desperately want us to believe that it doesn't matter. They want us to stay silent. They want to keep us in the margins. But here's the thing. We know better. Right now, and this is what's so crazy, right now, our youth are growing up with fewer rights than the generation before them. Isn't that something? So Are we going to stand by and let that happen? Are we going back to being denied the right to live authentically, to have our existence erased? Or are we going to fight for a future where every trans person has the right to thrive? For those living with chronic conditions, are we going to accept a future where life-saving medication can be denied for pre-existing conditions because we were once there? Many of us have forgotten that. Are we going to let them undo what Black and brown trans women threw bricks and acted up for? Are we going to let them criminalize our love, our unions, our transitional care, our very existence? Or will we choose a future of bodily autonomy where we have the right to access essential needs and protections that every human deserves? This is more than about just us. It's about the future of our community and our country, our democracy. We deserve a President Kamala Harris, someone who understands and fights for our rights. So I'm asking you, I beseech you, one of my favorite words, beseech. Get out and vote. Get registered. Don't let anyone trick you into believing that you cannot register to vote. Again, get information, get accurate information from trusted sources about what your rights are. Make sure every trans person you know is ready to do the same. This is our time to stand up, to speak out, to shape the future that we want to see. Donate, volunteer, and for our allies, thank you to those of you who are on the call. Make allyship an active, living, breathing thing. Ally is both a verb and a noun. I'm no English major, but I do know that. It's both a descriptor and an action. Again, let's move forward together, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm Shannon Lynn Parker. It is an honor to be here.
Thank you so much, Shannon, for really putting those words and talking about the actions that we are doing and the power that we're bringing into this movement. And what we have done on this call has been so historic, so unifying, so energizing. And for all of you that have stayed with us the whole time, thank you for being a part of this history and this energy. Now, our next guest really needs no introduction, but I will talk about when I met Jonathan Van Ness for the first time. Was at the vice president's house, and Jonathan gave me JVN. You gave me the best compliment that I can go to the grave with, and that's you said something about my curls, and I was like, yes, thank you. You changed
Your
my
curls
life.
don't quit. Your curls
Yeah.
never quit. Look at these gorgeous curls.
Yeah, you changed my life. JVN, thank you so much for being here and being a part of this historic movement. So please, without further ado, Jonathan Van Ness, everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jonathan. My pronouns are he, she, they. Again, want to echo Iris. Yas. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, tonight so much for being here and giving your time and your energy to such an important, beautiful moment. I have been so moved by the speakers tonight. And I'm just so proud to be a part of this community and also for our allies showing up, making time for us tonight. Also, thank you. Tell your friends. We'd love to see them next time because I'm sure this will be the last fundraiser we're having for the Harris Wealth Administration. Yes. So one thing I wanted to echo that I think is so important, and also the tip on voting early so that you can volunteer on election day. Yes, but also I live in Texas, and when I went to go vote for the first time in Texas in 2020, it took me 8 hours because like an absentee ballot that I had went for beforehand, like it didn't get to my house. So then I had to cancel the absentee ballot to like go vote in person. They're like, well, you have an absentee ballot. It was a whole thing. But I had to go back and forth to the voting office like several times, and so many people can't do that. And so I want to make sure before the day comes that you've had a chance to check your voter registration. The link is in the chat, but transformthevote.org is so important to check your voter registration. So please make sure that you take the time to do that. And also, whether it's money or your time, if you have money to donate, please do that. The sooner the better, the sooner the campaigns can have it, the sooner that they can make it work. If you don't have money to donate, your time is equally important, and so is your voice, whether that's volunteering, whether that's having conversations with people in your life. I had the pleasure to get to interview Adrienne Marie Brown today, who I love so much, and we were talking about social media, and she was saying how social media is a place where good conversations can happen, but also so many important conversations happen with the people in our lives. And that can also be through volunteering. So I just encourage you to stay involved in any way that you can. Transformthevote.org. What else? Is there any? Just, I love everyone so much. I'm so proud of everybody. We are going to do this. Oh, I remember the last thing. I wanted to point out how many local elected leaders we've had here tonight. And just speaking to down the ballot voting is so important. So don't forget your state legislators. Don't forget your local elections in this upcoming election. It's so important. So thank you so much for your guys' time tonight. I love you all so much. I believe in us. I know we can do this. And I love you guys so much. And thanks for sticking around.
Thank you. You're glowing. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Wow, what a great showing. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can barely contain myself. I know it's been a long call, but man, I am jazzed up because our next speakers, it's just it's overwhelming for me almost on being able to introduce and communicate with such powerful humans that do so much for our movement. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be able to speak and be here with this energy and making history. It really is powerful. So I have the honor of introducing Chastity Bowick. And I believe Chastity will be introducing Miss Major as well. Oh, it's Miss Major. So Miss Major, I will be introducing you. And Chastity, there she is. Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Chastity Bowick. I use she, her pronouns. I am here with you and calling from Boston, Massachusetts, originally from Rochester, New York. I won't get into the work that I do because we're not here about me. My call to action tonight is there are a lot of people that are not on this call or didn't have access to this call. A lot of Black and brown trans individuals who are not motivated to vote. What I'm hearing in the community is that my vote don't matter. So we have a lot of work to do. We've had a lot of loss in our community. In order to prevent further loss, we need to educate our community members. And so we need to get off the Zoom, we need to get off social media, and we need to be in the streets searching for our homeless brothers and sisters and those in between, because we need to make sure they are registered to vote. If people don't have an address in Boston, they can use my address, because that's how dedicated I am to our community to make sure that all of our voices are heard. So I wasn't gonna get emotional, y'all.
That's okay.
There are so many of us who aren't here to vote this November. And so I want you to use the energy that they would have had, and that should light a fire underneath all of us to make sure that we have as many trans votes this November as possible. As an independent, I endorse the Harris and Walz ticket. Because again, it's not about me, it's about which candidate is going to be the best for our community. Project 2025 has said enough. we don't need to talk about it no more. We know what it is, we know what they're about, and we know what their agenda is. And so we need to mobilize. We need to put the gatekeeping aside. We need to come together and make sure that those that are not on this call today or don't have access to some of the access that we have, because like Hope said, I went from a sex worker to an ED, but that can easily go back and be reversed. And so I'm begging you to please do the work in your state, in your city, on the ground, and get people to the polls. And I would like to introduce my mentor, a woman who has done so much and has paved the way for me to be able to do the work that I do today, for me to be on this call today, and for me to continue to be able to do this work. The legendary Miss Major Griffin Gracie.
Hi, baby. Well, look, first thing I want to say is it's nice that we are in a time in life where we can be happy and joyous and feel good about the pick of president and vice president. But let's not forget that hundreds of girls and guys have died and passed away at the hands of people who do not understand us. Let's not forget the fact that we have been shackled and pushed and gathered for years before 2021 and earlier. You know, I started back in 1959. So believe me when I tell you, this shit is not over. This may be a beginning of what is right and what's wrong. So what exactly is this vote? Well, it's a sane versus insane. So what do you pick? The insane or the insane, you know? So think about it. What would I pick if I had $20,000 to pick something? Well, you go with the insane, you know, or the insane, you know. So take the time and pick what you like. Believe in the people that stand up for what you believe in, because all you got is your life. That's all you have. And the time of knowing that we had someone who cared about us, genuinely cared about you, that was a part of your community, that was the best thing you could have. Well, now, for whatever reason, we have the people who are our allies. So let's use them. Let's count on them. Let's make sure that they also get out and talk to those people who don't believe in them, who don't believe that we have those rights. And then make sure that we put Kamala Harris and both back in the office, the Vice President, the President of the United States. Because honey, that's all it is, the United States, and we're having to live here, and we're not going back. I don't care what they say. No. Always remember, no.
Thank you, Miss Major, and thank you, Chastity, for those words. Inspiration every time you speak. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
And yes, and I'm joined here by my co-host, Sebastian. If you are not inspired, I don't know what we can do. I just don't. I don't know what we can do at this point. But I know you are here because you are. I just want to thank all of you and just give you one more chance to hit those links, get them there, share them with a friend. This isn't over after this Zoom ends. This fight continues. It continues to move forward, and we made history. We made history. I'm getting buzzed by the Harris campaign right now. This is incredible. This is amazing, and it is so exciting. Sebastian, go ahead.
Well, Josie, you just rounded up. Thank you to everyone that stuck in with us tonight. All of our speakers who did not hesitate when we ask, all of the folks that wanted to be here, that couldn't be here. As Chastity talked about, all of our siblings and our sisters and brothers out there that we know lack access, that are not here in the room tonight or could not be here. Let's make sure we're still putting our feet to the ground and making sure we're touching our communities and our folks that are really on the ground out there suffering. So thank you, Chastity, for bringing that energy in the room. And I could not leave here tonight without, again, giving so much love, so much props and shout outs and thank yous to the group of folks. And I hope y'all don't get upset, but I'm going to call out your name, and I'm not going to call you orgs, but I will call out your name. So Zahara Bassett, Dr. Maya Green, Dr. Elijah Nicholas, Shannon Parker, Imani Sloan, both of my leads, both of you all, Marissa Miller, Tori Cooper, Dominique Morgan, Commissioner Precious Brady Davis, Hope Giselle, Regina Livingston, Paige Mahogany Parks, and it may be a few others, and please charge it to my head and not my heart, but you group know who you are. These BIPOC leaders and allies made this call. They made this happen. We didn't do this by ourselves. A4 did not do this alone. We did this with community and with the support of our BIPOC leaders and community. So I cannot leave tonight without giving my most honorable thank yous and my hats off to all of those folks that are, some of in the background, and some of you I know are on the attendee side. And I hope you hear this and
That's
stuck
right.
around, that we send so much love to y'all. So that's all I have tonight. Thank you all for joining us.
I do want to say something else too. So I to give the thanks again. Thanks for our interpreters. Thank you for our cart and accessibility. Thank you for all the staff at A4TE that worked tirelessly to make sure that this event went without a hitch and just went so smoothly, so well. And we're really, that made this all possible. And I just wanted to thank all of those folks and the leadership that it took to make it happen. And I wish I could say it all by name, but we'll be here all night because our organization is strong. It's huge. We got to keep it going. So again, thank you. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Have a great night, everyone.
Let's keep going. Don't stop tonight.
Keep it going.
Let's
Keep it going.
going.
Let's go. Bye-bye.